how might you describe some of the changes that have occurred, whether they will endure as we move into the future? But in particular, I'm really interested in what the strategies and practices that will define the micromobility field, future landscape, what those might look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the things that we're seeing change so rapidly that are really encouraging for micromobility is we're seeing cities in particular yielding new space to new modes of transportation, or in fact, old modes of transportation like the bicycle, unlike what they have done in generations. I mean, we have seen the slow and steady decline of space for the public or for pedestrians, et cetera, in cities in favor of the car. And so what we're seeing actually is what could be the biggest shift away from that we've seen in generations. And a couple examples: the city of Paris carved out over 600 kilometers of temporary bike lanes to rebound from the virus and from the pandemic, to be able to give people a safe way to get around their city. The city of Seattle, much smaller, but carved out 35 miles of brand new bike lanes that they will keep permanent, not even temporary. You go around the world and you're seeing cities that are rethinking how they are allocating space. And that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing for an industry that is looking to provide safe modes of transportation to the public. And to see cities make progress when usually cities move at glacial pace. And I've worked in government. I know how government works, and it often takes a major crisis to see an acceleration of change. And so what we're doing is really trying to provide the service that matches the demand of today. And that seems sort of cliche to say as a business, but we're trying to think about how do we roll out a new pass structure so people can buy weekly or monthly passes so that they can make micromobility more part of their daily commute or their daily life. These moments of change are also the chance not only for government to move quickly, but for people to rethink habits. And the chance of people to rethink habits is when the world is totally open to new business opportunities, or to people rethinking new modes of transportation in our case. So daily passes is one example. Thinking about how we can expand our service is another. We actually acquired Uber's micromobility business during the pandemic, which has allowed us to couple our scooters with their much beloved bikes and also integrate in with their app on the Uber app. So people can now see Lime products on the Uber app and actually choose to take a clean mode of transportation over a vehicle in this case. So we're seeing, as I mentioned, rapid change happening, and we're looking to stay right ahead of it because there's so much opportunity to there's so much opportunity to take on the challenge that's before us.
So let's just stay a little bit with the future landscape. Because most of us probably are thinking about what we would see in cities from a micromobility perspective. And as you think about cities making changes, how do you think of the individuals, the users, the riders, if you will? How do you think their behaviors will be changing as they kind of move from a very closed environment and maybe perhaps a bit wary of public transportation? How do you see them kind of gravitating as we go forward?
Yeah, we're already seeing that in the metrics of our ridership. So we're seeing generally longer rides, people that are taking micromobility longer than they would have on average beforehand. Now, some of that is for commutes, where they're choosing to take a commute in a different mode. And some of that's for leisure and just recreation, where we're seeing maps of people flocking to parks and getting there on bike or on scooter. And so I think what we're seeing is people rethinking how they get around cities. They're rethinking their own health, and that's a major shift. And they're seeing micromobility as being a socially distant, open air, safe way to get around, when they otherwise have maybe not considered that in the past, or not had to consider health issues around their own transportation. Now, I think the biggest challenge is we're also reading headlines, as many people viewing this may have seen, that there might be a major shift back to personal vehicles, or Carmageddon, as people are calling it. And Our job as a sustainable mobility company is to prevent that and to work as hard as we can to stay ahead of that. We do not want to make decades worth of progress go away by people just buying personal vehicles. And so we're doing everything we can to make our service available, make it an option for daily use, and stay ahead of that.